What's up? I'm Nivo. Today we're going to talk about AVRs, and this is more of a beginner's guide on setting it up. It's not really in-depth anything. And part of the reason for that is because a lot of AVRs are different. They all have different features, more or less than others. So this is just kind of just a basic guide, and hopefully to get your TV up and running with sound. That's kind of the main reason why people buy these things. All right, so let's talk about what it is actually. So it actually, usually it has a DAC, a preamp, an amplifier, and a digital processor. And it can have different modes like DTS, Dolby Atmos, Dolby Vision, all these different types of things for it to process. Now you can buy each of these components differently, a digital processor, a DAC, a preamp, an amplifier, which is more commonly done in the audiophile realm because usually when you have all this stuff in one box, it's just not good enough sound as compared to something that is separate in general. For example, for this one with the AVR 550, it sounds pretty good. In Best Buy, it was the best one that I heard in the store, so I bought it. It wasn't until I added on to this, you can actually connect another amplifier to this using the pre-outs, which I'll show you in a bit, that I was able to get my sound much better. So I'll show you in a bit, but I'll show you how I did that. So what that tells me is that the amplifier inside of this particular unit is not very good. And since this was the best one in Best Buy, Magnolia, that tells me that almost all of the AVRs don't have good amplifiers. So let's get to the back of this and look at it and see what's going on. All right, we're looking at the back of the AVR now, and it does look a little bit complicated, daunting, intimidating, all those things. And to be honest, I don't even really want to make this video because it is kind of complicated, but I'll try to break it down in simpler terms and make it a little bit simpler for you guys. So for you beginners, we'll hopefully get you up and running. All right, so let's say you have like an Apple TV. And what an Apple TV does is it can play Netflix or, iTunes movies, etc. So anyways, your Apple TV has an HDMI output. So you'll plug your HDMI cable into the back of your Apple TV, and that will send the signal into your HDMI cable, and you'll pick one of these. It doesn't really matter. Let's pick AV. And then now this has the signal, which is actually audio and video through the HDMI. And now you still don't have video coming to your TV, and there's no sound through your speakers. So that's part of the output part of the AVR. So for outputs, we have two output HDMIs here, and all of these speakers here are outputs, and the preamps are outputs. So all of these are basically to get out for audio, and this is for video. Actually, this can do audio and video, but it's a little bit different what I'm talking about. So if it has ARC on your TV, then use ARC here. If it doesn't, then use the other one. Not all of them have ARC at all. So if it just says output, just use output. And this will take that signal that you put into the AV from the Apple TV, and it'll send it back out, the output, into your television. So you plug this into one of your HDMI inputs on your television. And like I said, if your HDMI inputs have ARC on one of them, then or two, whatever, just remember which one you plug this into, and then use the ARC on here. So that will give you that should give you a picture to your TV. But if you want to use separate speakers, like not your TV speakers, well, then you can use these here. And since you're using the HDMI from Apple TV, which it does support, I think, Dolby Digital, and I don't know what else. as long as the processor in here supports it too, then you should be able to get whatever that type of signal is. This one supports, I think I mentioned 3 of them at the beginning of the video, like DTS, I don't know what else, Dolby Vision, whatever. So let's just start with stereo, because that's all I actually use. Front right and front left, and they are switched backwards because of the way, the left speaker, if you're facing the front, it's actually on this side. So the red and black go together. Be careful not to touch the wires when you plug them in. And this one actually, these caps come off, and then it reveals if you want to see a banana clip speaker wire, it can plug right into there. Or you can unscrew it and put your wires into there and then tighten it back up, and be careful that it's not touching something else. And that's how that works. So that will give you audio to your speakers from the signal from your Apple TV, and then it will actually shoot it out the speaker outputs, and then you can control the volume. But what happens if it's not actually working? Well, remember, we have all of these different types of inputs here. We put it into the AV. So on your remote of your AVR, make sure you're using the AV, because that's what we used, to select the Apple TV. If you're using a source that has HDMI, but it doesn't carry the audio signal through the HDMI, I'm not sure what that would be, but let's just say you have let's say it's a Blu-ray disc player, and for some reason it doesn't send the audio over the HDMI. Well, then all you would do is use this other input over here. You see you have BD here and BD here. So you take that source, plug that into that side, and then you just put this into the BD here. So this is going to whatever the other thing is. So now we have our Apple TV here and whatever this other source here and here, and these are all inputs. So now when we're on our remote and we select AV, we're on our Apple TV, and we're on BD, let's say it's our Blu-ray disc player, then just select it on the Blu-ray, and then it'll switch the signal over to here. You gotta wait, I don't know, 5-10 seconds for the HDMI handshake, and then the video should show up on the screen, assuming that you have the output going to the TV, and the TV is selected to the correct HDMI input that you put this from the output onto the TV. Okay, so it is a little bit complicated, but if you follow along, maybe you have to pause this video. All the information should be there, and that's to get it running at a basic level. So there's other things on here. There's optical inputs, so it's the same thing as HDMI, just not quite the same, I'll say, but close enough. And it sends a optical, like a different type of cable, and it's not like electricity, it's actual light going through here. This is a coax, and we also have like all these other speakers we can hook up. This is the center, front right, front left, surround right, surround left, and surround back right, and surround back left. So this is for 7.1 surround sound, I guess. And oh look, there's a subwoofer output here, so that's where you could plug in a subwoofer. I actually use Rail branded subwoofers myself, and those actually connect. I actually connected straight to the speaker wire from the back of the speaker. That's how I do it. But that's a different video for a different topic. So earlier in the video, I was saying that we can use an external amplifier. So we're not using the amplifier inside of this, but I'm using the first time I did it, I used the Kenwood L07M, and I plugged it into here, and this is just an RCA cable just like this one, and this plugs into the back of the amplifier. And then instead of having the speakers plugged into here, we plug the speaker wires to the back of the amplifier that this is plugged into. So this is front left and front right. So I'm not even using any wires here in my personal system at all. I just use the front left and front right, and going into my other amplifier. Why would you want to do that? Well, as I mentioned, the amplifier here is not that great. If you plug it into a really good amplifier, it can absolutely change the sound, and in this case, much better than the how it was just stock. What am I missing? Probably a lot of things, but I guess kind of the whole point to having this in the first place is so you can switch through your signals of, like, let's say you have a PlayStation here, Apple TV here, a Blu-ray disc player here, a VCR here, and then you can just take the TV and then it takes the video and the audio signal inputs and then allows your TV to accept that input and as the output of this, so you can use one TV to watch it all. That's kind of the whole point of this. But hopefully you learned something, and maybe you didn't, maybe you did, whatever. It's kind of a beginner video. There's a lot of complex topics that you could talk about with AVRs, but not everyone has the same AVR, so there's too many topics to talk about. I'm not going to know the answers to everything, but this is just the guide to hopefully get some of you started. I guess comment below if you have any questions or if this actually helped you. I'd like to know about it. All right, see you guys later.